A young boy, with innocent eyes and a pure heart, asked Elon Musk an unexpected question. Can you bring Jesus Christ back? This question was not just the curiosity of a child but a powerful hope for a miracle. A salvation in a world full of challenges. Elon Musk, who was accustomed to facing problems that seemed impossible to solve, suddenly found himself in a situation that he could not resolve with technology or his inventions. The answer he gave not only comforted the boy, Adam, but also touched Elon's own heart, making him realize that sometimes true miracles are not things we can create, but acts of kindness, gestures born from love and genuine care. This simple story contains a profound message about faith, hope, and the connection between people. Let's listen to this incredibly deep story. Elon Musk was walking down the street, listening to the sound of his footsteps echoing on the quiet road. The late afternoon sunlight cast a warm golden hue on everything around, making the scene feel like a still painting. Suddenly, a clear voice broke the silence. Hey! Elon turned around, startled to see a boy standing on the sidewalk, his feet unsteady on the rough cobblestones. The boy, wearing an oversized jacket, his shoes caked in dust, was holding a worn-out toy car, its shape warped. The boy's clear eyes locked with his, sparkling with curiosity. Are you Elon Musk? The boy asked, his voice as gentle as a passing breeze. Elon paused for a moment, taking in the surroundings. There was no one else in sight, only long shadows stretching across the ground in the golden light of the evening. Yes, I'm Elon. And you are? Elon replied, still surprised by the unexpected encounter. My name is Adam, the boy said, taking a few steps closer. His eyes filled with something special, not worry, but a pure, unwavering belief. Then, suddenly, he stopped and asked, his voice soft yet full of sincerity. Do you know about Jesus Christ? The question caught Elon off guard. It wasn't about rockets or technology, but something much greater. Jesus Christ? Are you talking about the one in the Bible? He asked, somewhat confused. Adam nodded, his eyes shining bright. Yes. Do you know? My grandmother says he can heal any sickness. And I think, if he comes back, my grandmother will get better. The boy's words stirred something deep inside Elon. He felt a lump in his throat, not from lack of confidence, but because he could sense a powerful faith coming from the heart of this child. He looked in the direction the boy pointed, where an elderly woman sat on a bench under the shade of a tree, looking tired, a scarf draped around her neck, gently swaying in the breeze. My grandmother is very sick, Adam said, his voice choked. I think Jesus will help her. I just want to ask you, could you bring him back? Elon felt a lump in his throat. He was someone who had helped many, created things that people once thought were impossible. But this question was something he couldn't solve with intellect or creativity. This was something he couldn't reach with technology. Why do you think I could do that? Elon asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Adam didn't hesitate, his small hands clutching the old toy car, as if finding comfort in it. Because you can do anything, right? You take people to space. You create things no one has thought of. I think you can do this. Elon stood there, a strange feeling rising in his chest. How could he tell the boy that there were things he couldn't do, even though he could create wonders on this earth? He looked into Adam's hopeful eyes and felt lost, unable to find an answer. Suddenly, from a distance, a soft voice called out, Adam! His grandmother looked at him and called out. The boy looked one last time at Elon, his eyes still filled with unshaken hope. Can you bring him back? His voice rang out, still full of trust. Without waiting for an answer, Adam hurried back to his grandmother. Elon stood there, a strange, indescribable feeling welling up inside him. The question echoed in his mind, like a bell ringing in his thoughts. The boy didn't need an answer from him, only the belief that some miracle could happen. Elon stood still, his eyes focused on Adam rushing towards his grandmother. The grandmother's hands, fragile yet strong, gently placed on the boy's shoulders as Adam sat next to her. They spoke, though the sound was muffled. Elon could only sense the connection between them. Adam leaned into her, as if she were the only place in the world that could protect him. Her embrace around him was gentle yet firm, as if it was all the boy needed in this life. Adam's question suddenly echoed in Elon's mind, like an indelible question mark. Can you bring Jesus Christ back? Elon had yet to give an answer, but the question lingered in the air. He took a few steps back, a heavy feeling pressing down on his mind. The sound of his footsteps on the empty street echoed, seeming to turn into a monotonous sound, reverberating in his heart, carrying with it an invisible weight. You do the impossible. Adam's words kept repeating in Elon's head, like a mantra that couldn't be shaken off. Was that true? He had created rockets, electric cars, created innovations that people thought could only appear in science fiction movies. But this wasn't an invention. This wasn't something that could be measured by formulas or based on a huge budget. Elon's thoughts grew more complex as Adam's image appeared clearly in his mind. The boy, with wide eyes and the light of hope in them, clutched the old toy car, as if it were the only thing that hadn't abandoned him in his life. Elon felt a deep emotion when he looked into those eyes. Adam wasn't asking for wealth, fame, or grand things like a journey to Mars. He was asking for one thing, a miracle. Not for himself but for his grandmother. When Elon returned to the hotel, night had fallen. The sun had set, leaving the town bathed in the soft purple hue of twilight. The hotel room he had chosen to rest in seemed too small within the vast space of laboratories and offices, where work was always waiting for him. He stood by the window, his eyes looking far away, where the faint yellow light of the church appeared dimly. Adam's words echoed in his mind, as if they couldn't be escaped. Why did Adam turn to him? Elon was not a person of faith, nor someone a child would think of when asking for help from a deity. But for Adam, Elon was a symbol of hope. Not because of who he was, but because he could do the things that seemed impossible. You can do the impossible. That phrase twisted in his mind. Elon sighed, running his hand through his hair, feeling as though an invisible pressure was building on his shoulders. He was used to stress, to projects that couldn't be completed in a single day. But this wasn't about space or inventions. This was about an old woman sitting on a bench and a boy, believing that Elon Musk could bring Jesus back. Elon sat down in a chair, feeling confused. The room was quiet, but his mind was constantly spinning. He remembered the moment when Adam had asked, "Are you Elon Musk?" That moment passed quickly, but what remained in Elon's heart was the heaviness, the unwavering trust. Adam didn't just believe in God, he believed in him. He looked at Elon as someone who could erase the line between science and the divine. That made Elon feel uneasy. How could he live up to that belief? Leaning back in the chair, Elon took a deep breath. Tonight was different. He sat there in the silence, thinking about all that he had achieved and all that he lacked. The successes he had created, the people his work had impacted. All of it made him feel proud. But tonight, something wasn't right. A question he couldn't ignore. A question from a boy who wasn't asking for a scientific or philosophical answer. The boy just wanted to know if someone could save the one they loved most. The silence enveloped him, and Elon couldn't shake the image of Adam and his grandmother. Both sat alone, like forgotten shadows outside the church door, seemingly invisible in the vast world. The smallness and yearning in the boy's eyes made him feel something, a feeling he had never experienced before. Elon opened his eyes and looked toward the church. The faint light from the stained glass windows illuminated the cold stones. Yet it still reminded him of perseverance. Of things that would never give in. Suddenly, he felt a strange pull. A compulsion he couldn't explain. It wasn't guilt or duty, but something powerful. Much like when he started SpaceX. When he dreamed of conquering Mars. He didn't have an answer for Adam. At least not right now. But that question wouldn't stop haunting him. He couldn't turn his back on it. Couldn't ignore it. Even though it was too difficult to answer. He stood up. Put on his coat. It might be cold tonight. But he didn't feel it. He didn't know what he would do. But he felt the need to go back to the church. Where Adam's question was still waiting. The next morning, Elon found himself walking down the path toward the church. He had no clear plan. But the unease in his heart couldn't be quieted. Even though he wasn't someone who believed in the supernatural. He couldn't shake the image of Adam and his grandmother. He felt a compulsion. Like a reminder from deep within. As he neared the church, the scene from yesterday came to life before him. Adam and his grandmother were still sitting on the wooden bench outside. The boy's toy car slowly rolling back and forth in his small hands. His grandmother remained silent. But the peaceful atmosphere made Elon feel a strange warmth. Yes. The morning was cold. But there was something warm in their presence. He took a step back. Asking himself, "What am I doing here?" He was not a man of faith. And he could not answer Adam's question. Nor could he answer for his grandmother. But then, Adam looked up and recognized him. The boy's eyes widened. His face lit up with surprise and hope. He quickly turned to his grandmother, speaking softly but filled with joy. "Grandma! Look! He's back! He's back!" Elon stood at the side of the road, his eyes fixed on the cars speeding by, each one like a heartbeat racing, dragging along the jumbled thoughts in his mind. The sky was a cold, deep blue today, with no breeze to ease his discomfort. It felt as though he was standing in an entirely different world, where all peace had been swept away. "Thank you for coming, Elon," a warm voice called from behind. Elon turned around to see an elderly woman with silver hair and a gentle smile. Her eyes were full of wisdom and understanding, as though she could see through all of his thoughts. "Hello, ma'am," Elon replied, his voice hoarse from the fatigue of the previous night. Despite this, the softness in her words brought him a small sense of comfort. Adam, the boy standing nearby, was playing with a small toy in his hand. Upon seeing Elon, he lifted the toy car, as if to show him what he had just found. Adam's gaze couldn't hide his curiosity, as if searching for an answer that he had been waiting for. "You can do it, right?" Adam asked, his voice innocent but full of expectation, as if he believed Elon could change everything. Elon bent down, looking into those innocent eyes. He couldn't deny that this boy had placed an enormous amount of faith in him. Part of him felt a heavy burden, while another part feared the inevitable disappointment. "What do you mean?" Elon asked, his voice somewhat vague and unclear. "You said you could do the impossible. And I think you can bring my grandma back," Adam said, his voice brimming with hope. "She says she's not afraid of anything. But I can't live without her." Those words crushed Elon's heart. He looked at the boy's face, where the light of hope was beginning to fade due to an all too painful truth. "Adam," Elon said, gently placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. I can't do that. There are things that no one can change, no matter how strong they are." Adam looked at him, his eyes filled with confusion, as though he didn't want to believe what he had just heard. "But you're Elon Musk! You can do anything!" Elon took a deep breath, then said, "There are things I can't control. I can help you in other ways, but not in the way you're asking." After a long silence, Adam's grandmother spoke, her voice soft yet full of maturity. Adam, my dear, you can't always get everything you want. Sometimes, we have to accept what life brings us. Adam turned to look at her, then back at Elon, as if he couldn't accept that truth. But I want her to live. Can you help me? Adam's grandmother looked at him, her gaze seeming to soothe the storm inside him. But all she could do was sigh, unsure how to make him understand that some things cannot be changed. I just want her to stay. Elon, I can't let her go. Why can't you help me? Adam's words hit Elon's heart like a punch. He knew that this plea came from love and the fear of loss. But it was something he could not answer. Elon looked at him, his eyes showing helplessness. I understand you, Adam, and I'm sorry that I can't fulfill your request. But I will stay here, helping you in my own way. Adam choked up, his eyes reddening. But in his gaze, there was still an unwavering persistence. He lowered his head, then looked directly at Elon, his voice thick with emotion. Can you help her at all? Elon silently looked at the boy, feeling the longing in every word. He took a deep breath, then answered slowly. I'm not sure, but I will do everything I can. I might be able to find a way to make your grandmother more comfortable, even if just a little. Adam seemed unwilling to miss the opportunity, his eyes scrutinizing Elon carefully. Then he nodded slightly. He quickly wiped his tears with his sleeve, trying to hide the emotions swelling within him. Just try. Adam's grandmother stood beside him, her gaze on Elon with deep gratitude. Her smile was gentle but full of emotion, her voice trembling as she spoke. We don't ask for much, Elon, but you came here, and that is the most precious thing. As Elon walked out of the church, his thoughts could not calm down. This feeling was different, not a challenge of technology or exploration, but something closer and truly important. He didn't know what to do next. But one thing was clear, he couldn't let Adam down. For the first time in many years, Elon wasn't worried about a distant future. He was only thinking about a boy who believed in him. Adam's questions still echoed in Elon's mind as he drove back to the cabin he had rented. Can you make him live again? It was no longer just an innocent question, but now a challenge that Elon couldn't dismiss. Adam's strong belief, along with his grandmother's declining health, made Elon reconsider what he could do. But how could he begin with such a question? That question haunted him, keeping Elon awake. He sat by the cabin window, gazing outside. The faint sunlight filtered through the curtains, illuminating the room. But his heart felt in turmoil. Throughout his life, he had been used to solving tough problems. But this time, it was a whole new journey. Unprecedented. Elon picked up the phone, hesitating for a moment before dialing the number. When the call connected, David's familiar voice came through on the other end. Hello, Elon. What's going on? David is a close friend of Elon, someone he always turns to when he feels stuck. Elon didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. Have you ever encountered a question you couldn't answer? David chuckled lightly. You're Elon Musk. How could you not know the answer? Elon smiled faintly, but it was a brief smile. This time it's different. A child asked me if I could make Jesus come back to life. David was silent for a long while before speaking, his tone more serious. Oh, that's quite a big question. Yeah, Elon replied, rubbing his forehead. I told him I couldn't, but I would try to help his grandmother. She's very weak, and they don't have much to rely on. So what are you going to do? David asked, his voice filled with concern. I don't know, Elon admitted. I haven't figured out a way yet. Those questions kept haunting Elon, preventing him from finding sleep. That night, he began researching the area, looking into healthcare services and the health situation within the community. Although he didn't expect a miracle, he was determined to do something that might help. As the night grew later, Elon felt a change within himself. This wasn't about fame or great accomplishments. This was about a boy and his grandmother. About helping them right here. Right now. And perhaps that was enough for him to find a way forward. When the early light crept through the frosted windows of the cabin, Elon Musk sat there, his eyes glued to the research board, his mind wandering. The hours of work didn't bring any miraculous solution, but they revealed an undeniable truth. Life in this small town was not easy. Medical care was lacking. Resources were scarce. And many families, like Adam's, lived in poverty, struggling every day. Elon felt the weight of this situation. But at the same time, a new direction began to form in his mind. Yesterday's conversation, with Adam's innocent questions, had made him realize that this wasn't a problem for just one boy. It was a problem for the entire community. For an entire life. Elon knew that even though he couldn't perform miracles, he could still do something. This wasn't about answering Adam's question, but about changing a part of the harsh reality that the boy and others like him were facing. After the ceremony ended, Elon returned to the church. Adam was still sitting in the same spot, holding the toy car, his eyes lighting up when he saw him walking toward him. Looking at the boy, Elon felt a hope that had never faded, no matter how harsh life around them had been. "You came back," Adam said, his voice full of excitement. He quickly stood up, his face beaming with joy. His grandmother sat beside him, looking at Elon with some concern, as if afraid that this hope would vanish. "I told you I would come back." Elon smiled, bending down to the boy's level. "Have you figured it out?" Adam asked, his eyes shining brightly. Elon took a deep breath and shook his head lightly. "I can't bring a miracle to your grandmother, but I have an idea." "What idea? Tell me." Adam sat down, gripping the toy car tightly as if not wanting to miss a single word. Elon paused for a moment, thinking carefully before answering. "There's a clinic nearby, but they don't have the resources to help everyone. So, I will help them get the equipment and resources they need to care for your grandmother and others who need help." Adam's grandmother looked up, her face filled with surprise. "Really? You will help us?" she asked, her voice tinged with a little anxiety but full of hope. Elon nodded. "I can't promise that everything will change immediately, but I will do everything I can to improve the situation." Adam's grandmother looked at Elon, her eyes slightly misty. "Why are you doing this? We have nothing for you to help us with." Elon stood up straight, his gaze determined and sincere. "Because, to me, the most important things aren't what will happen in the future, but what can be done right now. And if I can help, I won't hesitate to do so." Elon didn't say anything more, but those words were like a vow, like a deep commitment. This wasn't a technology project, nor a challenge he needed to overcome. This was something he needed to do, because the truth was, he had seen faith in Adam's eyes. Adam's grandmother stood up, tears welling up in her eyes. "Thank you. Thank you so much," she choked out. Elon smiled gently, interrupting her. "Don't thank me yet. There's still a lot to be done." With this spirit, Elon spent the entire day contacting medical experts, support organizations, and local leaders. Thanks to his influence, things began to improve gradually. Medical equipment was donated. Volunteer doctors joined to help, and the clinic agreed to expand its services. Elon ensured that all costs would be covered, and these changes would not be temporary but long-lasting. In the end, Elon was not only a successful businessman, but also someone who changed the lives of those in need. That evening, Elon returned to the church. where Adam was still waiting for him. The soft glow from the ancient lamp bathed the space in peace. But Adam's eyes were still shining brightly as he looked at him, as if he had never left. "Did you complete what you promised?" Adam asked, his voice filled with excitement. Elon smiled gently, the determination in his eyes reflecting part of the truth he had come to understand. "I've started the work. But it will take some time. Your grandmother will get the care she deserves." Adam's eyes lit up, but he immediately looked straight at Elon, his face filled with doubt. "But you can't make her come back to life, right?" Elon slowly bent down, his warm hand resting on Adam's shoulder. "No, Adam, I can't do that. But sometimes, we can help others, even with small things, just like what he taught us." The boy blinked, seemingly sensing a change in the way he answered. It wasn't the response he had expected, but it was certainly a profound lesson. As Elon left the church that night, something deep began to dawn in his mind. Adam's question was not just a challenge, but the driving force that pushed him to change. Although he lived in a world of technology, where everything could be explained by science, he realized that there are questions that only kindness and compassion can answer. In the days that followed, Elon threw himself into work with a different kind of effort. His focus was no longer on building rockets or creating great technologies, but on helping those who needed it most. The medical clinic in town, a poor and overlooked place, became his first target. His constant phone calls transformed a quiet scene into a grand project. Trucks loaded with medical supplies began to arrive, and doctors and nurses volunteered to help. Construction workers came to repair and upgrade the old space, making it ready to serve the community. Elon didn't just stand by and watch. He was present at the clinic when everything arrived, witnessing the gradual transformation. The staff were no longer weary. They began to laugh with each other. They looked at each other in amazement, as if a wave of new hope was flowing into their lives. Elon began to understand that this work wasn't just for Adam's grandmother, but for all the people in the town who needed a change. 2 days later, when the medical supplies had been fully delivered, Elon returned to the church. This time, Adam wasn't the only one waiting. A small group of townspeople had gathered, their eyes sparkling with anticipation. They couldn't believe that Elon Musk would care about such a small place. Adam ran up first, holding his familiar toy car. "Is the clinic ready yet?" he asked, unable to hide his excitement. "Not yet, but we're very close," Elon replied, giving him a warm smile. "The clinic will open in a few days, and your grandmother will get the care she deserves." Adam's eyes lit up. "I told Grandma you would help us." When Elon approached Adam's grandmother, she struggled to rise from the couch, using her cane to steady herself. Her voice was soft but emotional as she said, "Mr. Musk, I can't find the words to thank you. You're doing for us things we never dared to dream of." Elon smiled gently, his eyes sincere. "Don't thank me. This isn't about me. This is the work we must do, to ensure everyone has access to the care they need." Adam's grandmother smiled, tears welling up in her eyes. "But you've given us hope. That's worth more than anything." At that moment, the church bells rang, interrupting the silence of the afternoon. Adam looked up at Elon, his small hand gently tugging at the hem of his coat. "Are you like Jesus?" Elon smiled, his gaze gentle as he looked down at the boy. "No, Adam. I'm just someone trying to do the best I can. But you know, you've taught me an important lesson." Adam looked at him, his eyes wide with curiosity. "What lesson is that?" "Sometimes, you don't need a miracle to make a difference. Sometimes, you just need to care enough to act." Adam thought for a moment and then nodded, his face serious. "My grandma says that Jesus always cares about everyone. Then we can all learn from him. Elon said gently. In the days that followed, the small town began to change noticeably. The clinic was no longer a quiet place, but now it was bustling with people seeking healthcare. Elon made sure that Adam's grandmother was thoroughly checked, and when the doctors reported that her condition was treatable, Adam's face filled with relief and gratitude. It was the well-deserved result of all the effort Elon had put in. Since Elon Musk stepped into this town, a new atmosphere had entered, igniting a spark of hope in every citizen. The previously closed-off people began to open up and join in the effort to restore the clinic. It wasn't just Elon, but the entire community stood up, as if everyone felt a new mission. Volunteers, from the elderly to the young, all dedicated time to help, and small businesses gradually donated food and supplies. The clinic was now not only a place for treatment, but a symbol of compassion and unity. One evening, when the streetlights had just begun to glow, Elon wandered down the familiar street. He saw a boy crouching down, absorbed in his toy car. When Adam noticed Elon, he looked up, his eyes shining with gratitude, and waved at him. "Thank you for helping us." Elon stopped, said nothing, and simply smiled gently. He didn't need to say anything more. Sometimes, a smile was all it took to feel the change. In the days that followed, the clinic not only operated efficiently but also became an essential part of every citizen's life. Elon realized that it wasn't just technology that could bring about profound change. In fact, it was the unity and compassion of people that was the true source of strength. A week later, Elon returned to the church, where he had had his first encounter. The atmosphere here was completely different. The pews were no longer empty. People gathered, chatting and laughing, sharing the joy of the recovery days. This crowd was a living testament to the change not only of the clinic but also of the entire community. Adam ran up to Elon, still holding tightly to his toy car. "My grandma is better now, Mr. Elon," the boy joyfully announced. "The doctor said she'll recover completely soon." Elon bent down, his eyes reflecting sincere concern. "How do you feel?" he asked. A simple question but full of emotion. Adam smiled, his innocent and cheerful grin. "Grandma said when she prayed, you appeared. She said God sent you to us." Elon felt a wave of emotion rise within him. He looked towards Adam's grandmother, who was smiling at him. She no longer looked weak, her steps were much more steady. He realized that change did not come from just one person, but from a community working together. From care, from love, and from simple yet meaningful actions. Adam pulled his hand, pointing towards the crowd gathering around. "These are the people who helped us, Mr. Elon. They are a part of everything that has happened," the boy said. Elon looked at them, a silence enveloping him, and he spoke, his voice not too loud but deeply moving. "Everything we do is for each other. A strong community isn't strong just because it exists, but because people come together to share and care." Adam's grandmother, her voice warm yet full of determination, said, "You've given us hope, Mr. Musk. And that is the miracle we needed." For the first time in his life, Elon felt the difference in how he viewed the world. It wasn't just technology or inventions that could change destiny. It was human relationships. It was sincere actions that truly changed lives. Adam's question, "Can you bring God back?" was no longer impossible. It was a reminder that faith is not just about waiting for a miracle, but about action, care, and love given. And in that moment, Elon Musk understood that, even though he couldn't bring God back, he had found another way to show kindness and care. That was the miracle Adam needed. And it was the miracle Elon needed as well. In the end, Elon Musk not only became a hero in the eyes of everyone because of his great inventions, but also an inspiration for small but profound changes in the community. He had realized that, sometimes, The difference doesn't come from grand advances, but from small actions, from sincere moments when people come together to share, care, and support one another. In a world where technology can help us soar, it is compassion that brings us closer together. And perhaps, that is the most important thing. Note: this is a fictional story, created for entertainment purposes and to convey meaningful messages about humanity, unity, and hope. The characters and events in the story are not reflective of reality and are entirely unrelated to any real individuals or events. Disclaimer: